I've been working with the band Tyketto for a couple of years now. I've done lots of live shots with them. You might have seen some of my candid backstage and dressing room shots. They're one of my favourite bands to document and really lovely people to work with. So when they said they were going to do a new album, which is Closer to the Sun, out now, I had to get involved. And thankfully, they asked me. So we're going to go and buy the album, I'll bring it back and I'll talk you through the photography, the thought behind it, and hopefully give you a little bit of insight into my role on this project. So it is Friday the 20th of March, release day. I am heading down to 363 Oxford Street to the original HMV, and I'm going to buy a copy of the vinyl and CD so we can open it and have a look. I'm not going to film too much on Oxford Street because walking around with a gadget in your hand is like asking to be mugged by a guy on a bike. Let's keep the lid on this for while we're actually on Oxford Street itself. Obviously the album's out today, but it's kind of strange for me because a lot of the photography in it was actually taken almost a year ago. I'll get more into that as I go through the cover, but yeah, it's like, this is, obviously I've seen the artwork already, I know what it looks like. I watched an excellent unboxing online as well by Fireworks Rock and Metal magazine, so I kind of know what to expect, but it's not going to be actually holding it in my hands for real after almost a year of working on this project. I would like to clarify as well, the band are giving me a copy, but I love the experience of actually walking into a record store and buying it for myself. So one will go in a frame on the wall and one I'm actually going to listen to because I actually really like the album. If you're wondering why it's suddenly now dark, I did take a little detour, which we will go into in another video. So I'm here in HMV Oxford Street. Apparently vinyl is downstairs, so we're going to head down there and let's see if we can find it in the rack. AC/DC. Okay, so it's not in there. More tea. Oh, more tea here. So I have just looked through the whole of tea in the rack and I couldn't find it. I've just realised why. And that is because we are on the now playing new releases wall. So here we go, we've got the vinyl and the CD. So I'm gonna grab a copy. So we're back at home. It's actually a few days later and I have loved seeing everyone posting their albums online, putting them in the Tyketto Facebook group, tagging the band. It's just so cool to see how everyone's really embraced this album, their first album in 10 years. So let's take a look at the cover art itself. So I've got the vinyl and I've got the CD. I'll show you the differences between them as well. Now on both, the first thing that stands out is the amazing album cover. Now, I know I'm slightly biased when I call it amazing, but the fact is, I'll tell you the story about the photo in a minute, but just check out that cover, designed by Graeme. I'll put a link to him in the description. Just incredible. He does a lot of Tyketto stuff, and it's actually kind of cool to have to be incorporated into one of his designs. So this photo was an idea by Danny. What happened was, I remember I was out having dinner with Chris, and he said Danny's got an idea for the album cover. He's going to get in touch. And at the time, I was a bit like, I can do the band photo, but you know, I don't know if I should be entrusted with the cover. And he was like, just talk to Danny, see what he said. And so me and Danny had a video call and we had a talk, and I was like, oh, I think I know what you're trying to do. And we were actually in the studio on the day we took all the photos. And Danny came over to me and said, oh, while we're waiting for everyone else to get ready, can we take that photo? And we did the photo, and he said, I need to send it to the designer and we'll see what we can come up with. And I kind of thought to myself, like, well, so this is going to be a reference then. This isn't like the cover. This is like you demonstrating what you want, and you'll give it to the designer and he'll design something like using that as a kind of idea generator. And yeah, I didn't really think any more of it. Here's the original photo. So yeah, as you can see, it's just Danny on a white background. And yeah, he sent that away and I just didn't think any more of it. We carried on with the shoot. We got all of the photos that you've probably seen around. And yeah, that'll be, I thought that was it. Fast forward to the Blackpool gig at Waterloo in, I think it was the end of September. It was around that sort of time. And I arrived and walked into the dressing room, and Danny just said, "Oh, glad you're here. I want to show you something." And he showed me this design. And that was when I realized that Graeme had actually incorporated the photo into the design. So that's the day I found out I had the cover. Really flattered. It's my first cover as a photographer. I have done another vinyl cover before. I'll just put it on screen now. That was for the Licorice Quartet, Volume 3 of their Threesome EP series. And that did incorporate some photos I'd taken. Some were licensed. But this is the first one where like the photo is like the focal point. So grateful to Danny and all the other guys and the management for entrusting me with it and working me in. So when you open the vinyl, you'll see there's a very striking photograph of the band, and that was also taken the same day. So we shot for a few hours, not incredibly long for a band photo shoot, but a couple of hours, couple of different looks. We had help from a very good friend of ours, Nick Foley. He helped me out with a few just like tech things, and he kind of acted as my assistant for the day, so thank you, Nick. And also Laura Childs was there, and she helped out with like just a bit of the grooming, stray hairs, and I won't go too into that. I don't want to give away the band's secrets, but she was a big help as well. So really there was 3 of us who worked on those photos. I may have set up the shots and directed the guys, but ultimately I couldn't have done it without everyone who was there that day. And of course the band themselves, they really helped out too. And so we did a bunch of shots, some of the ones you've probably seen. So this one that was in Classic Rock magazine, we did this one that is on the VIP meet and greets that I believe are still available. This one that's in the cover, they were all done on that day. We did some solo shots as well. So like this one of Danny, one of my favorites from the shoot. And I just feel like, we really managed to capture the band in the kind of like their different personalities. So in some of them, they look really cool and stern and moody and rock star. And some of them, they just look like cool guys who you want to hang out with, which, hopefully that's what comes across. I mean, it's certainly what comes across when I look at them. But sometimes it's hard to see that when you're like in amongst it. But yeah, I feel like hopefully it hit the spot and everyone seems to like them. So thank you again to the band for entrusting me with that. Studio shoots isn't something I do a lot of. I do them. I am available for them. But for me, the biggest thing on this album is the candid shots. Now, I stole my candid style from a very good photographer and a good friend, Kyler Clark, and he is Alice Cooper's photographer. And he does the most amazing black and white candid photography. And I'm honest with him, that I stole his candid style, but this is the first vinyl album that has incorporated those shots. So if you open out this is the sleeve that the actual record comes in. So if you look here, you've got the candid shots here. So we've got Jed, that's Chris sat recording some bass. There's Danny, and there's Johnny looking really thoughtful, and Harry having a good old laugh, playing his special guitar. And but then on the back, they really wanted to kind of, again, capture the other side of that personality, not just like the artistic temperament, but also, they're kind of fun guys to hang around with, and they are, I can tell you that for sure. But so on the back, we've got Chris in a kid's playpen. We've got the karate photo, which was a lot of fun to shoot. I don't think everyone in the photo realised they were stood under a sign that said Karate Club, or whatever it says, which made it even funnier, because I kind of positioned them under that sign, and I thought, oh, they're mimicking the sign. And it was only after we took the photo that, I can't remember who it was, but someone turned around and went, oh, it says it on the sign. Like they thought they were just doing a funny pose. We've got Johnny laughing behind his drum kit. We've got all the guys on a kids' play park that was near the studio. We've got Danny pulling a face at Chris as well. And, you know, I only spent a couple of days on those sessions. Obviously, the guys were there to work. They had serious work to do. They were there for a couple of weeks. I was there for like a day at Flip Flop and 2 days at Rockfield. Incredible studio. But yeah, I loved doing these photos. I loved the thought behind them. And the thought behind these really was, I feel like we're losing that kind of thing of when you open a vinyl album and you see those little glimpses. Today, people share too much, I think. So much of our life is overshared on social media now, and I really wanted to get back to the day where you'd open Kerrang magazine or you'd open a vinyl album and you'd see little snippets of behind the scenes, little black and white photos of people at work. And you'd think, oh, what are they saying to each other? Like, I wonder what song they're recording when, like, in that photo. You know, it was enough of a peek behind the curtain, but it wasn't throwing the curtains wide open. So, for example, I know exactly what song Danny is singing in that photograph, and I'm not going to say, because we need to leave a bit of mystery. Maybe if you guess in the comments, if someone gets it right, I might confirm it. But this is the thing, you know, like, I think I was really trying to evoke like 70s, 80s album art, because back then when you didn't have constant social media, I mean, my childhood was the 90s and I grew up with my dad's record collection. You didn't have social media. You couldn't just watch a band's music video immediately. The snippets you got of who your band really were these like inside an album kind of just snippets of things going on. The one that always makes me think is one of my favourite albums is Diva by Annie Lennox. And that came out in like 92, I'd have been quite young. But even in the late 90s, I didn't know what she looked like, because the only 2 photos I'd ever seen of Annie Lennox were the front cover, where she's done up in that carnival showgirl costume. And then on the inside of the CD booklet, it was a CD I had, there is a photo of her standing with her arms outstretched, but she's wearing her glasses and a woolly hat. So I still didn't really know what she looked like. Now, if you hear an artist's name, you can find out what they look like in 3 seconds by just Googling it. I don't know, I kind of prefer the way it was, you know? So that was what I was trying to get to with these sorts of photos. And again, I think the way Graeme's laid this out, it really, for me, evokes that this is something that you would just sit and stare at and try and figure out and read every word. Like, I'm really happy with how this came out. Now, the CD, there are a couple of little differences. We have the same picture there. Now, firstly, on the front of the booklet, we have this picture from the same sessions. And that session, for those of you who are remotely interested, was actually done the day before Stone Dead Festival, which I was also at. You've probably seen my shots from Stone Dead. The band have been very generous and allowed me to get involved in quite a few things. We have a few more photos. I think there's 10 on here and there's 12 on here. So there's 2 more photos here that aren't on the vinyl. And this was an interesting thing. Again, this was Danny's idea. So we have duplicates of the cover, but with the different band members. So there's Harry, there's Johnny, Jed, Chris. Now, I'm not holding these up in too much detail because if you want them, you need to buy the CD. I had an amazing time doing all of these photographs. Thankfully, they've let me get involved in some other things as well. I love working with this band, and seeing my work in the flesh and being able to buy it from HMV Oxford Street is something that 17-year-old me just wouldn't have believed would have happened. So thank you, Tyketto, for having me on this album. It's been honestly one of my highlights in life so far, and a real bonus is the fact that not just being on an album, but also being on an album that I actually really like. Shall we do it again? Don't forget, Tyketto are on tour throughout April from the 13th to the 25th, starting in Cambridge and ending in Wolverhampton. So if you haven't got tickets for that, definitely get tickets for that. I will see you there. Thanks for checking out my video. This is a kind of a whole new thing for me. I'm going to be doing a bit more of this sort of stuff. This is my first real attempt at being on YouTube. So I really appreciate it if you've got this far. Do a like and subscribe. First time I've ever said that. And hopefully I'll take you on more little journeys and tell more stories like this, and we'll get to know each other a bit better.